So it's July 22nd. We're in the dead of the heat of the summer. It's been about 100 degrees for the last 2 weeks. Today's video, I wanted to share with you a little bit of things I've learned, some mistakes I've learned along the way in the last 3 months of gardening, what my plans are for the future of my garden for the fall, how I'm dealing with seedlings, and also how to build this cool bamboo trellis behind me. Super cheap and super easy, so you can grow things like peas, which is what I will be planting today as well. It's been too hot to be outside. It's finally cooled down. So I just wanted to take you through a day of me sort of just dealing with the garden. So let's just jump right into it. So let me just quickly take you through what is going well. Right now we've got our basil. We covered that last garden video, and you know, that's pretty easy to take care of. It's looking bountiful and beautiful. We've been dealing with zucchinis lately. This is my zucchini plant. You know, it's not really taken off, but I'm getting lots of zucchini flowers from it, which I'm obviously using to cook with. So far no diseases, everything looking good, just not producing a ton. Over there, this is that tomato plant that I propagated, and it's looking pretty good. I've got some fruit clusters growing here, and I'm just gonna let that go. Over here is the Brandywine tomato, which is just growing huge, and I put my stake in, which I told you I would, and now I'm just gonna start to grow it up the stake. I've got some fruit clusters coming in, hoping the heat isn't gonna just kinda have those flowers die off, which is what the heat will do to tomato plants. Sort of like what it did here. This was the first fruit cluster, and that's sort of burnt off now. So that's not gonna really do much. As you can see, I've had to wrap bird netting around my cherry tomato plants. As they were ripening, I had some birds and some chipmunks just going to town on it. And so I really had to take care of that. I was losing all of my fruit, and I didn't like that. So I just got a whole bunch of bird netting and wrapped it around it really well, making sure there were 0 holes. Absolutely 0 holes, because they will get in. I caught my little chipmunk friend Tiny Tim trying to get through, and so I had to reinforce it, and now he can't get in, as you could see from this Instagram story footage. Same thing with my strawberry plants. They got destroyed by animals, so I had to cut them back, let them regrow, and then protect them with this combination of some cut up bamboo spears and some bird netting. So I'm really going with this bamboo look now. Now, as you remember, I had to tear up the romaine last time, and I was still growing the ruby red, but I pulled that up as well. And what I've begun to do is have these seed starts. These are baby seedlings, so as opposed to going to the nursery and buying the plants, which is way more expensive, I've begun to collect seeds, and so now I just grow seedlings whenever I need more food. And I even have some carrots growing down here next to the kale, as well as in between the arugula and the kale. Now, lettuces do not love the heat. They are a spring and fall vegetable. So it's not really a surprise that this time of year, mid-season, in the dead of the heat of the summer, it's not doing well. Now, the one thing about starting my own seedlings that sort of changed the whole game for me when it came to growing my own food was figuring out a situation for starting seedlings. And if you go out and you buy your own seeds, which I actually have basically a whole inventory of seeds now that I've been collecting over the last 2 months. They're so cheap that you could sow way more seeds than you need, so that in the case that I lost an entire crop of romaine, which I did, if I had a regimen of seedlings going already, then that wouldn't have been a problem. I could have just torn them out at the sign of any disease and then replanted more lettuce. That was the major lesson that I learned. As soon as I lost that crop, I started to realize I have nothing left. So I started growing my own seeds. I got little containers like this from Amazon, which I could fill up with water. I could fill these cells with soil. There's a humidity dome that it comes with, but I'm growing them outside because it's not the spring when it's cold. It's already warm. I'm just kind of keeping them in the shade in my back, way high up, so that no animals can kind of get into the seedlings, and they can grow to a certain stage, and then I can get them into the soil. So that's what I've been doing. I've been taking them from their safe spot at night and then during the day when it's sunny out, I will transplant them into the sun so that they grow strong. A problem with growing seedlings indoors is that they don't get used to the natural light, and then you bring them outside and then they just get sort of destroyed and not used to sort of elements. But these have been outside, so they're sort of hardened off already. I plant way more than I need, so if they're overcrowding, I could just pluck some, or if some don't germinate, or if some die, I have enough to sort of fill the bed back up. And so that is the key principle that I sort of took away from growing my own food, is instead of relying on what you planted or what you bought from the store to get you through the summer, you're gonna have to sort of understand that things are gonna happen, stuff's gonna come up, issues are gonna arise, diseases, bugs, stuff's gonna happen. And being prepared with more plants that you're growing is a good way to kind of hedge that bet. So I've just started a bunch of lettuces, red Russian kale, which has been my favorite thing to eat in salads this year, some more romaines, some heat tolerant lettuces, some beets, some broccoli, some eggplants, some bok choy, and I'm just really gonna start to push the limits of my bed and really maximize the space. So I'm gonna go over there and I'm gonna show you my strategy for what the fall garden is gonna look like and how I'm going to maximize that space. But first I wanna show you how I fill up these cells. So if you wanna start to do this, you can just sort of see how easy it is and try it for yourself. So I'm just gonna take some soil from my bed and fill up each of these cells. And I wanna make sure that they are compacted in there because seeds won't germinate in loose packed soil. So make sure it's condensed in there, make sure there's no gaps, and then just even it out. Each little cell we could plant 2 to 3 seeds. So it's at least 24 plants can actually fit into this thing. And all we're gonna do is we're gonna take our seeds. These are gonna be mini romaine blends. So like heads of romaine, but they're gonna grow mini. And then open your seed packs. General rule of thumb, the bigger the seed, the deeper you plant it. The smaller the seed, you only need to plant it like 1/8 of an inch underneath the soil. Small seeds don't wanna be planted deep. So you've got the seeds in there. I just kind of bury them lightly underneath the soil. And then I'll just put another thin layer of the soil on top. What the f... What the f... So after your tray is filled and you've been attacked by squirrels, put a thin layer over the top of the seeds and then fill up your tray full of water so it'll wick water up from the bottom and the container will keep the soil moist. Label it and you're ready to go. So there you go. I'll go keep that on the shelf in the shade in my back and wait till they kind of come up and germinate. And once they do, then I'll try and give them as much light as I can, and then we'll transplant these into pots eventually in like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So we're ready to go. We got rotations going, and that's how you gotta think if you really wanna be eating food from your garden all the time. Another thing I've learned is that as I'm building this bed and getting good organic soil and doing all the right things, I wanna make sure I make the soil nice and healthy. So one thing I'm learning is you don't wanna till this. Once the romaine that used to be in here comes out, I don't want to till it and start to disturb the soil because there's like good stuff happening underneath the soil, and by tilling it you're kind of destroying it. So all I'm going to do now before I plant new stuff here is to throw compost over this one layer. By throwing compost on top, that's sort of feeding the soil what it needs, and over time it will kind of break down into the soil, give it the nutrients it needs, plants will absorb it, and then you can keep adding compost on top, and that's the way to sort of feed your soil so that it remains nice and healthy. And so now I want to do is think about how to maximize space here. And what do I know about peas? Peas pull nitrogen from the air and pull them into the soil. And I know lettuces need nitrogen to grow nice, green, healthy leaves. So there's a symbiotic relationship there. And I also know that the sun has a hard time reaching the plants that are back here because of these bushes right here. So I wanted to utilize vertical space as much as possible so that I have more access to the sun essentially, and just getting a better use out of my space. And then carrots and root crops like that grow deep. So I figured in between the peas growing back here and the lettuces here, I can grow rows of carrots underneath and just have a utilization of space, because the lettuce roots are shallow and the carrot roots go deep. So again, I'm maximizing the space as much as possible. And you have bush beans, and then you have pole beans. Pole beans climb up with little tendrils that sort of seek out things to climb and then create stability. And then bush beans grow more like a bush, essentially, sort of like a predetermined size. I want to grow the pole beans up, some nice sugar snap peas. So I saw from Epic Gardening's channel, that I'll leave linked down below, he moved into this new house and he's using bamboo to kind of do a lot of his trellising and staking. And I just love the look of it. It has this sort of castaway kind of bohemian look to it that I love in the garden. And all they are these 4-foot bamboo stakes. They come in like a pack of 6 or 7. And essentially, you know, they're pretty tall, but I have them stuck in pretty deep. And you just stick them all along your bed where you want some upward stability. And then for longer ones, I just used the entire length as the cross pole, and you could do as many as you want. And then with just some brown string, I tied this real nice kind of support for it. And so what I'm gonna do is show you how I'm gonna do it for this side trellis using these smaller bamboos that I basically just cut down from one of these long ones. So let me show you how I do that. So first you want to figure out how many vertical stakes you're going to need, and I know I've already measured this. I'm going to need 3 here, and at least 2 to 3 horizontal cross supports depending on how high you're going with this thing. And then cut your cross supports into equal pieces, and then begin to alternatingly weave them into the vertical bamboo pieces. Once you do that, they're going to almost start to support themselves with the tension that it creates. Space everything out the way you like, and then get ready to tie it. Just cut some equal pieces of string, and then below each horizontal piece on each vertical bamboo, we're going to tie a knot and then pull it diagonally across, and then wrap it around the vertical, and then flip under and over, and then wrap around the vertical again. And just keep doing that until we have a nice secure tie. All we have left to do is put a little top coat of compost onto our bed, feed that soil, spread that out, get it nice and moist before we plant the seeds. And then with a little stick, I'm just going to make these 1 to 1.5 inch deep holes, a few inches apart from each other. I think I made about 13 holes here. And then we're going to take sugar snap pea seeds, and we're going to put 2 in each hole just to make sure we have successful germination. Cover up the seeds and then soak them with water, and then they're good to go. Did I say cool down? I was terribly mistaken. All right, well. So hopefully those peas will start to sprout before my lettuces get in there so that they can stretch above the lettuces, get that sun while the lettuces grow beneath it, and then I'll plant carrots below it. And that's sort of how that system's gonna work. And as far as those seedlings go, I wish I would have had those ready to go when my romaine started to go bad. I hate the fact that I had empty space in the bed for so long, but now I know for next year you always have seedlings ready to go just in case something happens. They're cheap enough where if you don't need them or if you did too much, you lost pennies instead of dollars. So there you have it. Learning from my mistakes from the prior 3 months and applying them to my fall garden. I'm gonna try and maximize as much as I can into that bed, and even with pouches like these, I just got 10 of these. This is a company called Root Pouch. Highly recommend. They mistakenly sent me a different color than I wanted, and when I reached out, they said, don't worry, keep those 10 bags that you already have. We'll send you 10 more of the bag you want. So I've got 20 of these 5-gallon bags that are pretty beautiful and they're easy to move around, that I could plant all sorts of broccolis and all sorts of stuff into. So even if you don't have a raised bed, you can get growing for the fall. So don't sleep on that. Get yourself some seeds, have fun with it, learn. To me, this is just a form of therapy. One of the best things I've decided to learn how to do in my life. That's it for me in the garden today. I'll see you next time. Until then, take care of yourself and go feed yourself.